Okay, my apologies for that previous video cutting off so quickly. New video software, still trying to figure out how this works. So, yes, but we've got compound lines, things intersecting, and not at all behaving how we would expect normal vector lines to. If you haven't ever worked in Illustrator and you have no expectations, it's probably still going to feel very weird. But at least you won't be sort of fighting the software. All right, so I'm going to take my selection tool. I'm going to drag select like a whole area and just get rid of all that. And it's going to leave me with that. Or we're going to get rid of this. Double click that line. Get rid of it. All right. So left with my one shape just to kind of simplify things a little bit. You saw me using these different shape tools, right? Squares. There's a rectangle tool. There's the oval tool. And then this tool. This poly star tool right here. If you select it over here and go to properties, you can say under options, number of sides, and then whether it's a polygon or a star, right? So 5-sided polygon looks like this. 5-sided star looks like that. Unfortunately, there's no real good like hockey way to change these things, which is unfortunate. Other drawing tools. There's a line tool, which is precisely as it sounds, just drawing simple lines. You can also accomplish lines by using the brush tool and holding down shift. It'll constrain proportions. Constrain vectors, I guess, direction. There's also a pencil tool. The difference between the pencil tool and the brush tool. The pencil tool draws strokes. Follows your line. Oh, I'm in the wrong color here. There we go. There we are. So there we are, right? It draws lines. And if I was to select this, it would behave exactly like line segments. You can see that they actually broke each other up as I was drawing. The brush tool, you can see it's a different color, right? You can see it's this color. It's a fill, right? In part because if you had a tablet, the harder you press, the wider the brush would be. But if I was to zoom way in here and select it, right, or hover over it, you see how my cursor changes to a little line next to it? That means there's a middle section here where I can just select it and move it, or there's a section here that's the line. And you can see this brush is exactly like this rectangle. There is an outside shape and we're filling it in. There just doesn't happen to be a stroke. I could actually put a stroke on the outside of this. It would look, oh, maybe I can't. Nope, it won't let me because I didn't have one in the first place. And probably because it couldn't process this. But it behaves like the inside of the rectangle, whereas the pencil behaves like the outside of the rectangle, behaves like the stroke does. Both tools could be used very well with a tablet if you had one. We don't have any at the school, unfortunately. Let's see, brush, and then text. We're going to get into text more later, but it pretty much behaves like every other text tool in any other Adobe program ever, which is fantastic. So, how do we fix this problem? Just hitting delete to get rid of things, of things not behaving, not drawing how we'd like them. Well, I said before that there's some properties over on the left and some properties on the right. Anything on the right that you see that's a number, actually let me draw just one shape here, right? And I select it, all these things can be changed, right? All the aspects of the stroke and the fill, they can be changed. You can change the position, you can change the size. But whenever you grab a tool over here, there's always a couple things that are at the very bottom, right? They're below this last line. These things cannot be changed afterwards, right? If you have a brush tool and you say, I want it to be this size or this shape, right? You can make it kind of look like calligraphy or something. You cannot change that after you've drawn it. You can't select your scribble. I can't select this and say, oh, I want it angled the other way. If I change this now, it's just going to change the next thing I draw. So same with the pencil. You can tell it to be a nice smooth line. You can tell it to be ink, which follows your hand exactly. It kind of looks a little less good. Or this straight line here that tries to straighten it as much as possible. I can't change that afterwards. All right. And one of the things that you cannot change after you've drawn it, but is very helpful, is if you select any of these shape tools And I think, yep, brush tool, pencil tool, yeah, any of these drawing tools, stick with rectangle, there's this. If you hover over it, you get a tooltip that says Object Drawing. This is the Make Work Like Illustrator button. If I turn that on, right, and I make this shape, actually, squares are a bad idea to work with. That's my fault because we can't see what's going on. So this one over here is regular drawing, and this one over here is object drawing. And you can see, see, now we can see it. See this bounding box? That's how you know it's an object. If I click this, see, it's that sort of spackle look. It all gets selected. This is the bounding box. This is how things can work like Illustrator, and both of them are selected and both of them move, and I can put one over the other and they're not spontaneously going to burst apart at the seams, right? So this is how you get things to behave the way you'd expect. And you're thinking to yourself, but I need to change the shape. Well, just like Illustrator, there's a sub-selection tool. Click that, click on the outline, and now you've got your anchor points, which we will be talking a lot about because anchor points and all these curves are very, very important. All right, but okay, sorry about that. So that's how we get things to behave the way we expect them to, right? So this is now going to work like an Illustrator shape. I have my anchor points that I can pull around here. You'll see actually these little handles right here. These are called Bezier handles. The further I pull this, the more this is influenced. And the direction you pull it in is how it influences the curve, right? So it's not on the curve, it's pulling the curve, it's influencing the curve. That's how we would word that. So you can really directly get in here and reshape stuff, as opposed to this, which is a little, I mean, like, yeah, I can kind of hover over the edge and vaguely, you see this little kink right here. There's an anchor point there. I can't see it. So there's one there too. And I know that because it's the exact same shape as this. So there's, this is a better way to edit things. Now, next class, we are going to be getting into some things that use Flash's drawing tools to our benefit, like the weird ones that do crap like that, where it just vanished. But for the most part, you'll probably have an easier time using object drawing. Alright, so just to review, you've got your drawing tools. You want to stick with the bottom several right here. Selection tools, general selection, sub-selection. Your settings for things down here, and the unchangeable one, right? Object drawing, that's all the way at the bottom. Properties for anything you've drawn or any tools you will use will show up here on the right. And one last one to get you started is this one, Free Transform Tool. So in case you're ever wanting to, just kind of rotate something or resize it. If you hold on Shift while over the corner, you can resize it proportionally. Otherwise it does this, which may be what you want. Hover a little bit outside the corner and you get rotation. And then otherwise you can move it. Alright, so these are the tools you're going to be wanting to use just to kind of get started with this first week's assignment.